Check, check. How is the sound? How is the video? All right. So I think I possibly found the solution. We're going to try this. I was using a former version of OBS, the streaming software, and I think I needed to update it. Welcome to Market Psychology, where we look for value in the markets when there's fear. All right, let's just jump into it. I was taking a look at some altcoins because all of a sudden today we've had a little bit of a dip coming through the market. And I'm just looking overall. I went straight to Bitcoin dominance after I saw some of these alts dipping. And this was today. All of a sudden, Bitcoin dominance ripped and some of our alts went down. Again, zoom out. Zoom out, we'll see Bitcoin dominance. It's bullish on the micro to medium time frames. We next have some resistance right at 60%, close to 61%. I believe the 20 and the 50 week moving averages are close. Yeah, that's around 60%. So this pullback could be a good opportunity to dollar cost average into some alts. Some of these alts, you saw me just looking at Ondo. We just talked about this one. I'm seeing more people talk about this one lately. We just talked about Ondo not too long ago. And I'll be honest, I didn't know if we were going to see this 0.5 fib again. Now, this is the most it's been tested ever since Ondo moved up in July. So in July, we've just been chopping sideways, consolidating, hopefully accumulating. But this is the most we've been testing it. So I'll be clear with you guys. This isn't financial advice for you, but this is part of my strategy. You can tell me I'm wrong. That's fine. There's a couple ways I buy. And again, I'm a medium to long-term horizon investor for crypto trade vestor. When I draw my fibs, high to low, I am looking for those fib areas to buy. I'm looking for moving average areas to buy. And you also see that I have on these red and green dots, these are buy sell signals. I look for those as well. That is where I start. I keep it simple. All right. Now, do I have the moving averages? No. We are bearish underneath the 50, technically speaking. It's still holding on, so maybe it's still bullish. Do we have a buy signal? No. Do we have a fib? Yeah. So sometimes I consider, is this a spot? And not just for Ondo specifically, anything. Is this a spot I want to buy that I dollar cost average into? Now, I'll be clear. If you don't have the buy signal, you don't have confirmation. If you buy at the fib or the moving average, you might catch a local dip. But if you don't have the confirmation, you do run the risk of it going lower. So if I were to buy here, will I buy here? That is a question I ask myself when I make these decisions. I do not buy every bottom perfectly. There are, believe it or not, many times where I'll say, great, I'm going to buy here. At the buy signal, it goes up, comes down. I'm like, crap, I didn't make any money, but you know what? We're back at this fib. I'll buy again. And maybe I get it here or here. Luckily, we get a buy signal. So those are some things I look for. I'll add in, let's take off these indicators. I'll add in the MACD and stochastic RSI as well. Let's marry those together. And I'll also take a look. Okay, what is this showing me? This is showing me that the MACD is about to turn red. Don't love that. That the stochastic still is the bottom. Don't love that. So if I need a little bit extra data, I'll take a look at those and say, you know what? I think we may still have more of a dip to go. Sorry for the ASMR drinking sounds. Hopefully that's not too much in your ear. I hate that personally, so I try not to do that too much and lean away from the microphone. So, anyways, those are some things I look for. And right now, I do think it could go lower. All the same, we see how big this weekly candle is. We see where these wicks are, how the 0.5's been support. So I might take that risk and say, you know what? I like this fib area. If I can get this asset specifically at 85, I might just pull the trigger. Again, as a dollar cost averager, I'm taking a look at this last half a year, and we are within range of those lows. So I might take those risks. Let's go to Bitcoin. So you may be asking yourself, why are things so bearish today? Now, I'll give you a couple reasons. We have Bitcoin making this recent high at 116.5, and Bitcoin, I did have a descending channel from these lows and these highs, but once it broke up, this turned into an ascending channel. And this is one of a couple major reasons I believe we're getting a standard pullback. We hit the upper area that's ascending channel, okay? You connect these higher highs, that's right where that resistance is. We also have crypto fear and greed recently almost getting into extreme greed. And I've been talking about this whole last week, how when we were so close to getting into extreme fear, within 10 days, we almost got to extreme greed. That is a big, fast move. Pullbacks are to be expected. Be patient. I'll be honest with you guys. When we were around here, I was feeling a little FOMO, and I was telling myself, be patient. You've been through this before. Be patient. If it runs, it runs. There's always another move, but be patient. And thankfully, I have been. So I think right now, that patience has gotten back to the point where it can pay off. So that is what we are looking for. Let's take a look at seasonality and remind ourselves that last year, Bitcoin also had a negative August. Here we go. It's finally loading up. Bitcoin had a negative August last year. September good this year. The rate cut cycle, the Fed cut by 25 basis points last year. 25 basis point rate cuts cycles are overall bullish for the markets. We're getting that again. Jerome Powell, when asked if you cut by 50, said not unless there's an emergency scenario. When they cut by 50, that's not a good thing. Or if they have a rate cut average of 50, it's not a good thing. Now, this last week or so, we've been taking a look at the large cap data, saying, is now the start of phase 3. I think even in one of the videos recently, I said, we could be possibly getting started with phase 3. And you might ask yourself, how do you know when it's phase 3? Or what is phase 3? What are large caps? And I'll show you. I don't want to click on XRP. And Binance, by the way, flipping XRP. How many people saw that coming? Any of you remember when Binance was 200, by the way, when CZ was being sent to jail? I asked out loud on this channel, is this the time to buy? Because this is extreme fear for Binance. This would be the time to buy if you believe in it. And BNB coin has done a 6x since then. And it is now the number 2 overall altcoin. We're not including stable coins, no Tether, no USDC. But again, going to large caps. What are large caps? By the way, I like Chainlink almost getting into that conversation. Large caps are outside of Bitcoin and ETH when we consider Binance, XRP, Solana, Doge, Tron, Cardano, even Link. When we include all the altcoins such as those together. And so, again, let's go back and forth between these charts. We know we've been in phase 1. Are we in phase 2? Yes, we are. We know we're in phase 2. We'll walk through this again. We know we're in phase 2 because when we zoom out, we can see this is Ethereum's valuation moving positively against Bitcoin. Now, I've been waiting for this 50-week moving average and 382 area to come in as support, and it looks like we're about there. So when ETH Bitcoin gets here, I think it's probably a very good time to possibly dollar cost average in. If you believe in the 4-year cycle, this may be one of your last best opportunities to get in on a local dip, in my opinion, not financial advice. So here we see clearly we are in phase two. What is phase two again, you ask? Phase two is Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin. That chart literally shows Ethereum's valuation moving up against Bitcoin. Okay, so how do we look at phase three? Phase three being the large caps. Now, we just went through what those are, and a way to chart the large caps. One of you commented this, by the way. Total 3 ES includes the total market cap excluding Bitcoin, ETH, and stablecoins. All right, so we're going to go back to that, but we're going to subtract others. Others is the total market cap outside the top 10. So chain link it on down. We're getting rid of those. All right, so we are taking total 3 ES, remember that's stable coins, minus others. Do you guys see what I'm doing here? We are getting rid of Bitcoin and ETH. We're getting rid of the stable coins, and we are subtracting everything outside the top 10. That is what we're doing here, and we're comparing that to Bitcoin. So we just said ETH Bitcoin, and obviously I was charting this recently. You guys can see that. This is total 3 outs and getting rid of the stable coins and all the altcoins outside the top 10. Now, when I take a look at this macro-wise, I think we have this giant wedge pattern. And we are at the upper area of that wedge as well as the 200 week moving average. So you got to break out of this wedge. We got to break over the 200 week moving average and retake that 382. But I think we make support here, get out of the wedge and over the 200. That is very good. 382 will all but that'll completely confirm it, in my opinion. So that is what I'm watching for. Again, this is our phase 3 large cap chart. Total 3 gets rid of these. ES gets rid of the stable coins, minus others, gets rid of all the small medium caps. We're just taking a look at large caps here. Okay? And this is what that chart shows us. So are we in phase 3 now? Well, clearly the answer is no. But we may be right there. We are knocking on the door. Now, I would have said the same thing back here, which was last November. Obviously, Bitcoin was very bullish at that time. All right? And I was looking at this through a couple different lenses. One of them that I really liked was the Bollinger Bands. Excuse me. Now, Bollinger Bands, when they squeeze, we can get big moves. And this thing's been squeezing for a while. Okay? It has been squeezing. So even if we go to the monthly, especially the macro time frame, this is squeezing. And I'm hoping with this recent surge up, we can finally break out of this channel. Now, how high will this go? Who's to say? But I'd be looking at this golden pocket area, the 618 to the 0.65, as an area where we could see alt season coming to a conclusion for large caps. Now, I see these questions sometimes. Okay, when we're in phase 3, is phase 2 done? No. Phase 2 continues through phase 3. How about phase 4? Does that mean we're done with phase 2 or 3? No. Ethereum and large caps continue through phase 4. The only thing that stops is phase 1 Bitcoin. When we are in phase 4 alt season, Bitcoin's phase is done. Bitcoin, when it tops and it is too expensive to keep buying, that is when we get a rotation to alt season. Let me repeat that. When Bitcoin tops and it's too expensive to keep buying, we get a rotation. And you might ask, well, how do you know that? We'll get rid of the Bollinger Band here. You might ask, how do I know that? Well, that has been something the last 2 cycles we've seen reflected in Bitcoin dominance. Again, Bitcoin dominance, excuse me. Bitcoin dominance is the total market cap that Bitcoin takes up in the crypto market cap. So right now, Bitcoin takes up about 60% of the entire pie. This is that rotation. This is that rotation. And we can add on 2 charts to clearly show that. We can add on Bitcoin. Look where Bitcoin tops, right here. This is that rotation from that Bitcoin top in 2017, that peak we had. This is where Bitcoin topped this alt season. Now, dominance was already starting to break down, okay? But we still had a massive rotation. Again, that was the local top. Bitcoin, of course, had a double top, and there were some profits to be made a little bit later. This was truly alt season, when large caps, small caps, medium caps, all the caps went parabolic. Not all of them, but if they were chosen. So that's what Bitcoin does. Let's show what Ethereum does. And to no one's surprise, Ethereum tops as Bitcoin dominance pretty much comes to a conclusion. Here's the Ethereum top. Here is the Bitcoin dominance fully tanking. I'm going to keep showing this because this is too important. Okay, here was the last cycle, right? Look where Ethereum topped. Here and here. Okay, now I'll tell you, the last 2 cycles, which I was there for, by the time Ethereum tops, alt season has already ended. Many of the altcoins were topping or getting to their peak a little bit earlier, just so you know. All right. So we can even go to, let's get rid of that. Let's go to the Ethereum chart and we'll just overlay Bitcoin. And I think, again, this is really good to just remind ourselves of. And you can see here, where was Ethereum when alt season started, when Bitcoin topped and was too expensive to keep buying? See, the price over there is at around 2,200. Where did Ethereum finish by the time alt season was done? Over 4,000. It dang near did a 2x. From the Bitcoin peak. Again, from the Bitcoin peak. Where was Ethereum when Bitcoin topped? Here for the 2017 cycle. It is around $700. Where did Ethereum finish by the time alt season finished? 1,400 if you include the peak. We'll just say 1,400. Again, dang near 2x. So Ethereum today is right under its former all-time highs, around 5K. Right now it's a shade under 49K or 4,900. And I've long wondered, is Ethereum going to get to 10, 11K? Because we have this 2618 fib here. ETH at 10, 11K will have a market cap of 1.2 trillion. We've talked about Bitcoin. If it continues to be bullish and get to these next fib areas, 155K Bitcoin is 3 trillion market cap. 40% of 3 trillion is 1.2 trillion. Again, 40% of 3 trillion market cap is 1.2 trillion. You can see the market caps if you go to coinmarketcap.com. Bitcoin gets 150-ish K. It has a 3 trillion market cap. 40% of that is that 1.2 trillion market cap number where Ethereum gets over 10K. So can ETH get to 40% the value of Bitcoin? The answer is simply yes. When we compare Ethereum to Bitcoin's chart, look where 0.4 is. And the last 2 cycles, we've gotten higher than 0.4. 2017, we got the 0.6. Last cycle, we got 0.55. But even if we include these lower highs, 0.4 is still conservative. I'm not even saying 0.5. So Ethereum very much can get to 11K, 10K. I really believe that. And if you haven't been in one of these prior alt seasons, I know that might seem outlandish to you. But again, we've been talking about how you see these peaks, see these rips. We had quantitative easing here. Here, Bitcoin, it was very new, it was very excited. Retail is getting rich. Okay. But we've just been talking about how the Shiller PE ratio, here we are, is at levels not seen since early 1999 when it got over 40. Okay, late 98, early 99. We are in what a lot of people are calling the AI bubble, kind of like the dot-com bubble, the late 90s. And when the dot-com bubble had a Shiller P ratio of 40, the market still had a year to go and another 25% up. We can go to that. We can go to the stock market. And we can go to late 1998, early 1999. Okay, let's go to that. Let's find, here we are. It's all about the same. Okay, we'll take it just from an average level here. This is when the Shiller P ratio was 40, when it just got to 40. Okay, we still had 434 days. So that is over a year and another 25% up. I'm not saying the move has to be the same amount of time or the same strength. We might have 200 days and 15%. We might have whatever, it doesn't really matter. But what I am showing you here is that this bubble can go on longer than people think. The fact everyone's saying it's a bubble tells me this is probably going to go on longer. Markets remain irrational longer, we can remain solvent. You've heard that song and dance before. I truly believe, black swan situations notwithstanding, that we could see a good amount of bullishness in the market for the next year. And that's what can get Bitcoin to that 155K level. Now, we've also been talking about how, at the end of last year when the Fed did its rate cut cycle, let's add that on actually. US, that's the inflation rate. Here we are, US INTR, United States interest rates. When the Fed did their average of 25 base point rate cut cycles, let's go to the daily, make it a little more accurate. Okay, they started in mid-September, and Bitcoin was just under 60,000. All right, we'll start from right here. When the Fed did their rate cut cycle, Bitcoin had another 50,000 points to move up by January and another 80%. Okay, let's consider that. So the Fed just cut by 25 base points. Okay, and if we move up another, let's go to mid-September, right around here. If we move up 50,000 points, you can see that puts Bitcoin at 165K, which is just over this 2618 fib. But if we see Bitcoin move up 80%, that puts us right at the 3618 fib. Let's go to the weekly here. The 3618 fib here at 210K. So there's a lot to show that we can get in these fib ranges that we've been talking about for a while. We've been talking about them because of the rainbow chart. Let's zoom in a little here. We see how these peaks regress over time, these logarithmic regression peaks. And I mean, this is late December, right? You see where those orange boxes are, or the orange bands. And the light orange goes 150 to 200K. The dark orange goes 200 to 250K. Right in the middle is 200K, right? And you see here how we get down a color band each time. So if we're in the orange, low 200K, and I just showed you rate cuts can get us there. Are there any other indicators outside the fibs and the rainbow chart that can get us there? Why, yes, there are. We have the pi cycle, the upper moving average, which we hit in the mid cycles, and the cycle tops, we've gotten above it, albeit that move is weakening in strength each time. The pi cycle upper moving average is almost, well, it's at 200K right now. We can add on the log regression. The upper area, which we've peaked at the last couple cycles, is right around the high 100Ks as well. So the strength of a rate cut cycle, the pi cycle, the Fibonacci's, the rainbow chart, all this stuff shows this is the range to watch for. And again, Ethereum, Bitcoin, that's looking bullish. The large cap indicator, that's looking bullish. So I do like a lot that I'm seeing here for Bitcoin. We are still bullish. Okay, even though we're getting this 2% move down, we are still very macro bullish. Okay, now we do have, I think the daily is a good chart to keep an eye on. We do have this channel to contend with. All right. Now the daily, Bitcoin came down perfectly to the 20-day moving average. We also have this former trend line, which I think was shown in inverse head and shoulders. That didn't really fully play out yet, but we'll see. We just got to get out of this channel. We have the 50-day moving average right here and that trend line right around 116. Okay, I think 116 could be a good area for support. You can see we've hit that 50-day before, got a little lower. But if we do hit this 116 area and curl up, that's another big head and shoulders pattern that I think we could structurally move out of this channel for. So when looking at channels, I do look for these series of higher highs, higher lows in an ascending channel. But before breaking out, I'm looking for a move such as this where, well, even this descending channel right here, where we're about to break out, a little retest. Okay, I don't need the drop for you guys. A little retest and then boom. Okay, so if all of a sudden we go like this, I think that's a very good indication we could break out of that channel. Let's take a look at total 3. We've not taken a look at this in a minute. Still riding the 50-day. Okay, total 3. This is very much bullish, but remember last cycle when total 3, this total market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH, when we were getting into new all-time high territory and staying there, look at the data at the bottom. We only had a couple months left until alt season completed. So keep that in mind. Once total 3 has turned the former all-time high into support, you see we've had resistance there. I believe that's go time. And I do have this channel. We've been hitting higher lows, higher highs ever since here in March of 24. We have this channel and as well as some Fibonacci extensions. Let's get rid of that. As well as some Fibonacci extensions to watch for. The 1618 and the 2618. These would be good levels to watch for possible alt season tops. All right. Let's go to others-Bitcoin. This is our phase 4. This is our phase 4 indicator. We are not in alt season, right? Now we are still above this 382 macro fib, and we got that by going high to low here. We're still above that. And so if we make a higher low right at the 382, that's very bullish, in my opinion, or saying, you know what, we have a good setup for altcoins. We also have this 50-week moving average to get above, right at the 0.5. Now, the 50-week moving average is the line in the sand between being bearish and bullish. So getting above this will be very good. And then we just got to get through the 200, flip that, boom, on our way up. Okay. And, for the first time, we'll probably get a golden cross with these weekly moving averages, I would suspect. Okay. We got a positive cross here with the 50 and the 100. But the 50 never got under the 200. Okay, the cycle or the chart is getting old enough to where I think we can do that when we get a golden cross there. Boom, we can be on our way up again. And this was the 1618 fib extension. We don't have to go through that right now. Let's take a look at Bitcoin mining stocks because these have been doing well. Many of you just look at altcoins. Now, on this channel, I've been talking about miners, and the the subscribers of mine who are the happiest right now are the people who were in mining stocks or have been in mining stocks. These have been doing great. Now, what is the difference between mining stocks and altcoins? Well, mining stocks top with Bitcoin. Let's get rid of these moving averages here. We don't need that. So I'll show you, if we overlay Bitcoin, you can see Bitcoin and mining stocks very correlated. This was 2017. Mara topped a little before. Last cycle, topped with. Let's go to Riot. Riot has long been the number 2 overall mining stock. Same thing. Mining stocks ripping with Bitcoin. Okay? Same thing. Same thing. So if mining stocks are all of a sudden doing very, very well, breaking out of their channels, to me this is a warning sign that the end is coming. I'm not saying it's imminent, but you can see when mining stocks just started going straight parabolic, that's when we knew we were closing in on the finish line. So I have fib extensions, I have trend lines, all that, areas to watch for. But again, we are seeing miners start to do what they've done in cycles before. So, I think all this lines up. I hope you guys see what I'm seeing. All this lines up. We are in phase 2. We just showed we are on the precipice of beginning phase 3. Still got to break out. And I think the next impulsive move for Bitcoin will probably kickstart phase 3. I think the charting shows us that. And not just the charting that shows us that, but also our mining stocks. Our mining stocks are just doing great, and they're correlated with Bitcoin. So let's run through a couple of these. And if I don't see any requests, we'll end the live stream early. That's okay. Iron, high to low, right at our 2618 fib extension. I mean, talk about miners doing great. The iron's just doing fantastic. Right about at its 2618. And I think this thing can go higher. Current market cap, 18 billion. In my opinion, I would not be surprised to see the top mining stocks get to around 50 billion. If you backtrack the math for some of the peaks from miners last cycle, they would have peaked around the 20 to 30 billion dollar range. So I think 40 to 50 billion would be market cap area to watch for. If any of you people are in the XRP army and you don't believe in market cap, disregard what I said. Iran can be worth $500 trillion if you ignore market cap and believe in unicorns and fairies. But being realistic, or conservatively speaking, I think $50 billion, 40 to 50 would be where the top mining stocks get to, right? So iron, I'm not talking about times to buy right now. It is so detached from its moving averages, okay? So, now's the time where you are executing your take profit plan and asking yourself, where do I take profit? If you were buying iron around $3 and you have a 20x that you're sitting on right now, we're not talking about buying. You are not buying at a premium. That would be dumb to do. You are thinking about, where do you take profits? Do I think iron can get to 100? Yes, I do. I do. I hope it does for any of you iron holders out there. Again, no certainties. I cannot guarantee anything, but I can say what I think is probable. And I do think Bitcoin getting to 150K and having room to run would say that would increase the likeliness that we could see iron at least getting to 100, if not more. So some of you are going to have very good returns for iron, right? Riot back in the number 2 slot. And I think Mara is due for a big move. We'll get to Mara, but let's do this consecutively. Riot doing fantastic. Okay, we had this descending channel forever. All right, we don't need that fib anymore. We had this descending channel forever, and on this channel it said, guys, Riot at $7 is a can't miss area. I'm so happy I dollar cost average in when it was at $7 at the bottom of the channel, and when it got back to the fib here, the 236. Again, jar fib high to low, that's where it is. Okay, we got Riot at $7, and it is just about getting into its golden pocket, the 618 to 65. All right, so we've gotten a 3x from Riot, and that's been fantastic. I do think this has room to run. We can connect these peaks here, and if Riot's to get to anywhere near that, could Riot get to 200, around 200? We'll see. But again, keep in mind, if Riot got to around that area, that's a 10x from here. We're talking about an 80 billion market cap. So that blows my projections out of the water. And again, I'm trying to be conservative minded. Too many channels out there throw out these ridiculous numbers and price targets that seem unbelievable. I try to at least let the data give some sort of indication. And let me be clear, I think this is best case scenario. If Riot does another 10x, I think that is absolute best euphoric case scenario. I'm not going to wait till then to take profits. Okay, I bought Riot at $7. If it's doing a 10x and getting back to former all-time high, I'm taking some level of profits. And everything above there is just a bonus. Okay, now if it looks like Bitcoin is in a topping process, and let's say Riot is stuck at 786, I'm going to take some profits there. Because let me be clear, last cycle in 2021, I've been in both prior cycles, not every asset revisits all-time highs or gets above all-time highs. Not every asset does that, so do be careful. And if we're tracking this and our miners, our altcoins are only at their 786 or 618, and we are seeing topping structure, you may want to consider taking some profits. Okay. Now, maybe you've invested down here and you want a little profit. I wouldn't blame you. But, right around the 786, the former all-time high, that's the range where I'm thinking about at least getting out close to my initial investment. And then I'm playing with house money. That's my plan. I'm not telling you what to do. Let's go to Mara. Get some water here. Mara has not yet broken out of its channel. Out of all the mining stocks, Mara is the one that's just waiting to pop. And it's curious to me. I think, here's what's going on. I see this happen a lot, especially with crypto, that the more popular altcoins, they'll do this thing where they lag behind a little bit and they accumulate and accumulate, kind of like XRP, they accumulate, and you're getting a little jealous of all the other medium caps that are passing you up, and then later on it tends to pop. So I believe that, Mara was the number one spot for a while. Again, we have a similar structure that to Riot, and I think, if we hit that golden pocket and this upper area, this descending channel again, that'll be very good for Mara. So Mara is, in my opinion, compared to the other miners, I wouldn't say. Here's how I look at mining stocks, cryptos. What is a high floor, low ceiling? Okay, what's safe? Maybe your Litecoin. I'm not expecting Litecoin to 10x. Maybe it does a safe 3x. Again, safe, high floor, low ceiling. What has a high floor and possibly a high ceiling? All right, I think of where is it? Chainlink. I think Chainlink is one of the safer altcoins, large caps, with a high potential of return. This is my opinion now. Okay, what is a low floor and a high ceiling? I think of Riot. I think of Cypher, Wolf. Okay, And if you want to get even more risky, like I'd be thinking of some of these, okay? Hive, Bitfarms. So I sort of assess based on that. What is a low floor, low ceiling? I think a bit deer a little bit. I could be wrong, but that's sort of how I gauge and rate some of these. Anyways, Mara, I'm still waiting for this sucker to pop off. And let's throw on a couple indicators. Let's do Ultimate RSI. Let's do MACD. And I mean, MACD's trending up, RSI's trending up, and we can be overbought for a while. But I like those two. I like how there's room to run on these charts. Now, I would be nervous about, on the RSI, just something to consider. All right. And by the way, speaking of RSIs, I mean, this is the elephant in the room right now. And I think we have to go to regular RSI. This is the elephant in the room. We have massive bearish divergence. Okay. Which means higher price, lower ceiling of strength. That's the elephant in the room. And I think it lines up perfectly that if we were to break this bearish divergence and then just simply turn it bullish, that could get us to 150K. But right now, this is still bearish divergence. And we'll just stretch this out. We're taking a look at the monthly here. If we connect that, I think at least on the monthly, we'll try to do this as well as we can. There's still room for Bitcoin to run if we're just connecting the strength index here. So on the weekly, it is concerning, and we gotta handle things here and now pretty soon. This has to break up. It cannot get rejected again. Otherwise we could be, hopefully, I think alt season and the crypto top would be delayed if we got rejected by that RSI again, if we do not break through. I think we could be seeing quarter one, quarter two alt season next year if this doesn't get handled this time around when we run into it. Throat's dry today. It's a good sign that we are well into fall, needing to hydrate a lot more, which is a good thing. All right, let's go to comments. Do any of you have any requests on certain altcoins or mining stocks to look at? One of you commented before. You went to, I think, all my live streams as my computer was having issues. Again, apologize if you're here earlier. The software I use, I needed to use the latest version. All right, but we are back. Yeah, one of you was very happy with Wolf, and I am happy for you. Wolf, we've been buying it, since I got it when it was sub $2. So I'm very happy with it. I have over a 10x. I am a little concerned with the 786 and this ascending channel, but we can break out of ascending channels. Okay? And hopefully we do. Now, if Wolf gets anywhere near this trend line around $53, which seems unbelievable, but I'm withdrawing. I'm not going to take a chance getting above that trend line. That's me, not telling you what to do. Wolf could go much higher. And if it does, I'll be sad pandas a little bit, but I'll have profit all the same. So if Wolf can get past the 786, look at how well those returns can get in a very short period of time. Market cap of $6 billion. Again, we'll see. I think if we break out of this channel, that'll be very good. Wolf gets the 50-ish bucks, and I bought under $2. All right, I am more than happy with that profit. I don't need to be much greedier than that. Let's go to Cypher, which has been doing pretty well lately. So Cypher 4, Wolf 5, and God, I remember Cypher got to like 11th on the list. It got to 11th, so you got to keep the faith. But Cypher above former all-time highs. I mean, this thing is just plainly bullish, so that means we take our fib, retracement, high to low, off log, and this is how we find our targets. The 1618 at 24. Okay, this is an 8 billion market cap. If it's getting somewhere near 20 billion, that might be profit taking time. But here are a number of our targets. We can add on more if we want. We don't need to. Let's go to Clean Spark. Right at its 786. Okay. Yeah, you can see this one had a big drawdown. And so, if we're just taking a look at the ranges here, and by the way, some of these miners pre-2017, they just, whatever, they look very weird. But I think we're starting to see more similar structures play out across the mining stock area. Could we get to 90? Maybe. Let's take our fib off log, though, and see if that former peak lines up to anything. Right at the 3618. Could Clean Spark get to 150 and do a 7.5x from here? So 7 times 6 billion, 42. Can we get a $42 billion market cap? I don't know. But we'll see. If Bitcoin is on its way to 150 and these things just start blasting, yeah, these moves can happen really quick. So do have a strategy. Where are you taking profits? Is that a former all-time high? Is it at the 786? Is it at some of these fib targets? That's for you to answer. Cores just at its all-time high. Still needs to get above, but we need more than just a wick. We need candle bodies. So let's zoom in on the daily. Cores is right there, man. Do you think the end of a shutdown, the government shutdown, could be a big catalyst? So here's my thoughts. And again, I could be totally wrong. This shutdown was already a good time to buy. As soon as the shutdown happened, the market started to pump. And so in my mind, I think, why wouldn't the end of the shutdown just be more reason to continue this, but even further? So that's the way I'm looking at it. Yeah, curious to see how long this takes. But yesterday it looked like there's going to be possibly the end of the shutdown, or the opposite of that, maybe news that all seems to be operating great without guidance. Yeah, least most wanted. I take news with a grain of salt, and to be honest, I feel like I am better at making money when I'm ignoring the media, unless I'm taking just whatever narrative that's out there. I don't try to get into the weeds on the narratives and feel good or upset by it. Instead, what I've trained myself to do is that, I just hear what is the narrative out there and what's the emotion behind it. If it's very negative, I'm taking a look at the charts and saying, all right, is there fear in the market? I'm buying. And if the news is very positive, then I'm being very cautious. So I do not watch the news much, and I do better at making money when I'm ignoring the news. And there's been people on the record that run hedge funds who have said that they've had CNBC and others put out positive news on their stocks, when it's already pumping, in order to get retail to try to buy in and, leave us hanging. So I'm just trying to follow the data. And, we've been pumping since the shutdown started. And I'm of the mind that the shutdown ending will just continue to be bullish. And, shutdown aside, I'm looking just overall at the rate cut cycle. What the Fed is doing is way more important than all this shutdown nonsense. So if I think the Fed just continuing to cut by 25 basis points will continue to be bullish for the markets. All right. Here's when the Fed cut by 25 basis points. I mean, look, we had a 50K move up, an 80% move up. And, I want you to take your mind back to last year. What was going on news wise? Well, we had the election, all right? People were freaking out about that. We had aliens. We had those alien drones over New Jersey. Okay. And all of a sudden, right on time, we have drones over Europe, which are probably Russian or something. We have three-eye Atlas comet, which people say, aliens are on the comet because it's behaving weird and it's surveilling us, right? We have this alien nonsense all over again. And again, I just have to laugh at it because it's like the same song and dance. We had an 80% move up in 3 months, a 50,000 Bitcoin move up. So I just view all this stuff as a distraction. Again, in my field of work, they've been doing field psychology, helping people. One of the things I talk about with a lot of clients, unless they're struggling, well, I mean, I don't want to get too deep in the woods here. I'm pausing and thinking of how to phrase this. But one of the main goals that I do with clients is trying to let go of some of the things that are outside your locus of control and your locus of responsibility. And how can you increase the strength of your locus of control and responsibility? And so we have all these influences upon us. Our government, that's very outside our control. Our culture, very outside of our control, but it's always there. It does have an effect, but as you get more inward, you look at your community, you look at your work, your family, you're trying to get more towards that internal locus of control and responsibility. Where it becomes somewhat of an issue is with alcoholics. That's part of the 12-step program. Giving up control, that sense of control, wanting to control how you feel so much. I tell people all the time, I have a rule. If I'm struggling, if someone I know that I care about just passed away, I don't drink. I simply don't drink. I refuse to drink or do an edible, whatever, if I'm not in a good mood. Because if you're using caffeine, any substance, alcohol, THC, whatever, if you're using it to get control of your dopamine and your endorphins, that's how you become addicted. And so I say all this because there's this outside narrative that we have no control over. None of us in my small YouTube channel are politicians or work in the Senate or any of that. There's a lot outside our control, so just leave it there. Okay? Instead of getting all wrapped up into it, what are things we can control? We can control the fact that, we can set a budget for ourselves. We can control the fact that when we see blood in the streets, which we are right now, the riots in Portland, and I know people in Portland, and they don't see any, they have a homeless problem, they have a car thievery problem, and method stealing catalytic converters, they have a crime problem, but there's not riots and terrorism. Okay, to me, I just see this as a distraction. When there's blood in the streets, when there's fear in the markets, I can control when I buy. So I try to use that narrative, those emotions, macroscopically for my benefit. So sorry for the long explanation, but that's how I relate my work and my perspective, what I do, to investing. And it's turned out pretty well. Buying the fear and the FUD, I tell you, it's worked out very well. I kind of agree. I don't care much about the news. I just want to know when. Yeah, and none of us truly know when, but it is always curious to me. Like, I keep things simple. Moving averages and Fibonacci. Let's go back to Ride. I think this is a great example. Is the price at some of my macro moving averages or Fibonacci levels? We were talking about BNB coin before. I'll show you when, they're talking about CZ going to jail. Binance, I believe it was here, mid 23. That negative news is right around here. The negative news, their CEO going to jail, all this stuff. We're at the 200-week moving average. We're losing the 200-week moving average. The sky's falling. Binance is horrible. Okay, it's at $200. All right, you would have bought that fear, and used the news, the bad news as an indicator. You'd have a 6x right now. The message is a fine message. There's too much emotion being displayed. Yes, and that's how they get ratings, and that's what all these bot accounts target. Foreign bot accounts, it's been a thing in the last 10 years. Foreign bot accounts they're not pursuing one message, they're pursuing the most divisive messages and heightening people's emotions. And the more people's emotions are heightened and bearish and negative, that is, in my opinion, time to buy. But man, look at Binance do so well. Can you imagine? I mean, this is last cycle. A lot of you guys who haven't been here last cycle and have been asking me, can this happen? Yeah, it can. Look at this just straight climb up. And we're seeing this. Let's get back to Bitcoin mining stocks. We're seeing this with miners recently, which is just, crazy to me. Like, we're finally here again. And, on my channel that I've had open for a year or two, it's hard to remember. We've been here through the boring times, the up and down times, but if we just stayed disciplined, bought the fibs, bought the buy signals, if we just stayed disciplined and bought the weekly buy signals, fibs, moving averages, you guys be doing fine. Okay, now if you're buying up here, sure, it's all part of whatever your dollar cost average strategy is. But yeah, if you've been here through the boring times, if you spent that time in the market and stay disciplined, you're happy right now. 786, we have the 888. Quick technical analysis on Bitfarms. Let's go to Bit Digital. That's been one I've been curious about. Right at that channel, Bit Digital, I think Hive as well. Waiting the breakout. Good accumulation here. Good accumulation. And yeah, this was a former peak for Bit Digital. But man, I think this one could do very well from here. Hive, another low cap miner, just broke out of its channel. I mean, look, when this thing started to go parabolic, it can happen very quick. October 2020 to February, just a matter of months. What happened around that day that run started? Give me the date. I will look it up. Which run? Sorry, I talked about a couple things. Which mining stock and which run? I'll pull it up for you. I assume, because I'm on a little delay, I assume you mean Bitfarms. Bitfarms, this is right around early September. Let's go to the daily. September 9th, if you're asking about Bitfarms. September 9th. So, yeah, and also, I mean, I love seeing this in a chart. Anytime we've been, ranging for a while and then we're coiling, right, and we're squeezing right at major areas of support and resistance, I love seeing this. Because then, boom. And that's what, the Bollinger Band is a good indicator for this. So we see that squeezing. We just saw that before the Bollinger Bands. Also, when you're seeing this get tight, boom, you just see it explode. This was a general run-up last cycle. Okay. December. October to December of 2020. Let's get rid of the Bollinger Bands here. I remember this clearly because last cycle, we had Doge. We had, the pump it up stuff. Is right as we were getting past this 2019 mid-cycle top is right around November of 2020. That's truly when we started to get bullish. And then December, Bitcoin was getting past its former all-time high. Okay, and then boom, we were on our way. Now this time around, things are a little different. We've been past our former all-time high for a bit. So But yeah, November, December 2020, that was also total three, or total crypto market cap outside of Bitcoin and ETH. Well, that was February 21. What am I thinking of? There's some other charts that also show December of 2020, kind of being the time where all of a sudden the switch was flipped. Very dry throat today. All right, so we've gone through miners. Did I get through them all? Yeah, I believe I got through all the important miners. Let's get through some altcoins and then, we'll end it. We took a look at Binance. Let's get to XRP, Solana, Doge, a bunch of those. I'll try to run through these kind of quick. I'll ramble if I need to. XRP. God, this one, just, we're all making fun of it for a while, and then all of a sudden, boom, it popped up. Still at its 1618. I do like and I think this chart gives me the most pause. The XRP US dollar chart, we zoom way out. We are charting that peak from 2017, late 2017, early 2018, and XRP is close to breaking past its true all-time high. And our fibs on log, I think the two major targets for XRP are 567 and $9. Those are the two areas in an alt season to watch for, in my opinion. 567 and $9. That was the big news story last. Why is that not showing me the full comment? That was the big news story. Also, last cycle, we had quantitative easing really spiking up. I'll show you something for last cycle. The United States Central Bank balance sheet. I mean, look at this. Boom. March of 2020, we just injected all that liquidity. It took a little bit to get into the market, but man, snap your finger and just 4 to 3 trillion out of thin air. And that's why we have inflation. And again, I hate both parties equally, but I laugh when conservative people blame Democrats exclusively for inflation when it's like, you guys are the ones who initially put in trillions of dollars out of thin air. That's going to lead to inflation every time. And I'm not saying that's wrong. Also, I'm not saying it was wrong to inject all that money, but, that is going to cause inflation. Let's just call it for what it is. All right, we took a look at XRP. We took a look at Binance. Let's take a look at Solana. Solana US dollar. I have sell orders for XRP between 7 and 10. Yeah, let me go back to XRP for you. You've been a nice person today. Always appreciate it. Yeah, again, I just have this fib drawn high to low. Yeah, $6, by the way. What would XRP's market cap be at, $7 or $10? So it'd be around a 3x from here. 300 billion, that's times 3, 6, 18. So we're talking 450 to 500 billion market cap. I do think it's important to watch market cap, especially psychological levels. So if XRP is getting above the 400 billion market cap, that's, you seriously have to have alarm bells in your head, and keep it simple. That's all we need, 3 or 4 trillion more dollars. I'm at lunch, not working. I hope you are enjoying your lunch. Yeah, I got some good stuff set up for today's dinner as well as lunch tomorrow. So college football tomorrow. I have a whole thing of ham, right now with some rub on it, soaking in. I'm gonna smoke it tomorrow on the Traeger all morning. This thing's gonna be fantastic. I need to pick up croissants and Swiss cheese. Let me tell you, Black Friday. If you don't have a smoker, get yourself one. Do that 0 interest payment plan. $300-400. It's worth it. Just pull the trigger. But I've had chicken marinating that I chopped up. That's going to be really good too. So, yeah, I'm somewhat of a foodie. Mama needs a new minivan. I want to pay cash. Yeah, especially with those interest rates right now. By the way, from people I know, don't get a Dodge minivan. Everyone I know with a Dodge minivan has had issues. I want to go to the other XRP one. Got a little distracted by food talk. XRP tether. So this is just from the last cycle high to low. I do think these are fibs worth considering. This one's under that 1618 fib we took a look at, the 567, but I would consider these targets as secondary targets. Which chart are you looking at? Are you drawing the fib from the high in 2017 or the last high? I think it's one of those scenarios. I consider both because both are playing out. We are at the 1618 and we are at the former all-time high. Both charts are relevant. So I do think it's important to have the XRP tether chart and the XRP USD chart. And I hope you make good money from it. Again, I am not anti-XRP. All because I say XRP is not going to $100. I like XRP. I'm just not delusional. Solana, man, if Solana starts breaking up, I think that phase 3 chart will be breaking out too. Solana, it's been knocking on the door recently. Let's put on our moving averages. I think they're going to be relevant. Let's go to the daily. Yeah, so if it gets good support here on the daily, I'm sure we'll challenge a former all-time high, and then it'll probably be good to go. Sienna, that's what we have. 200K miles on it. Nice. Good job. I have a brother who has a Honda. He really likes it. It's served him well. It has served him well. I am overloaded in Solana. Yeah, man. I know people who got Solana here in the 20 area. I have a good friend. He's a Bitcoin maxi, and he got some Solana in this time when it's 15 to 20. I'm very happy for him. And he's still holding because he's somewhat listening to me a little bit, which I'm not sure is a good idea. My friend, I should bring him on. I should ask him. I haven't told him I have a channel. I'm a little embarrassed, but I'm going to tell him pretty soon, and maybe he can be a guest because he is more right than I am when it comes to accumulating Bitcoin. He's been accumulating Bitcoin for a while. He has, I think, 1.5 Bitcoin or something. So I'm very happy for him. But I've been playing catch up through altcoins over the cycles, and I do well with the altcoins because I can get more multiples out of them. So I'm more of the altcoin mining stock expert. He's more of the Bitcoin expert. The way he knows how to treat it as a very good long-term play. Credit to him. But yeah, Solana, I think when Solana's popping, here's another thing for perspective. Every cycle is a new darling altcoin. 2017 is XRP, last cycle is Doge. I think it makes a lot of sense for Solana to be the popular one this time around. I think the answer is staring us in the face that Solana could be the one. Maybe it's Binance. I mean, that could be, I would not be shocked by that. Binance doing good now. But I think once Solana starts to pop, that could be the one everyone talks about. Let's go to Doge. Last time we looked at large caps, Doge and XRP, or not the XRP, Doge and Cardano were the two that were needing the most catch up or catching up to do. All right, what's going on here? It's not loading Doge. All right, here we go. Doge USDT. Obviously not the chart that I love. Doge dash some reason it's just not wanting to load up. We'll hit refresh. TradingView's been like this a little bit lately. Give it a minute here. All right. Let's try that again, shall we? Clearly the internet is working fine. It's just TradingView. No such thing as too much Bitcoin. Yeah, especially with this inflation stuff. You are very correct. All right, we're seeing a little bit come back. I'll just give it a minute here. But yeah, last time we talked, Doge and Cardano were the two charts that had the most catching up to do. Okay, what am I doing wrong here? Never have to type it up from. All right, what do we have here? Ethereum, ETHUSD. Do I just do Doge USD? Never type the whole thing out. I apologize. Today's been the day of technical difficulties. You know, what are you going to do? Link USD. You know, Link's right outside those large caps right here. It's finally leapfrogged Hyperliquid, which, you know, I'll be honest, I have not taken a look at Hyperliquid too much, but man, I do like the potential of Link a lot for all the large caps. So yeah, I'm looking at that one. Well, you know, if this, here we go. It's about time. Something going on with TradingView. All right, Doge. Let's add on our moving averages. And we were clearly looking at fib targets last time, so let's put our fibs back on the log. Doge right at that golden pocket area, a little bit of resistance. I would not be surprised to see this thing come down a little. You know, if you like Doge and you can get it 17.5 to 19 cents, I think that's a can't miss area if you like Doge. Now, if it just stays on the 50 here, which is possible, 21.5 cents, you know, we'll see where, if ETH Bitcoin is bottoming out and Doge is only here, maybe worth just dollar cost averaging a little. But yeah, you know, Doge out of all the large caps is the one that I'm most wary about. And I have Doge. I have Doge because as it was accumulating here for a while, I got a bit of Doge between 6 to 9 cents. So I'm very happy with it. And I do think it'll get above 41 cents. I think if it ever gets to 90, I'm going to take out all my Doge. Let's take a look at Cardano, though. Cardano has been ranging for the last 10 months. Yes, it has. You know, but I do overall, I mean, this one's very much like Doge. Cardano to me is kind of like Litecoin. You know, it's one of those high floor, low ceiling altcoins. You know, if you're content with, you know, getting these dips, you know, 60 cents, you know, maybe you got it around 80 cents, whatever. And you're like, you know what? I just need a 3x. I think Cardano is one of the safest ones. I think Link is better. I think Solana and Doge are better. Not Solana now, you know, as far as potential. But yeah, I do think Cardano is a safer play. This would be one, you know, again, every cycle we've had altcoins. You know, we had XRP and Bitcoin Cash, which were big here in 2017, only get to their 786 in 21. So do watch, you know, if Bitcoin is at 150K, if miners are parabolic, all these things, and your favorite crypto is at its 786, be careful or consider taking some profits. 618 to 786, that's what I see. You know, some of these will just hang up there and then fall off. Some are dipping to the 50s, but now it looks fine. Maybe a little, and underwhelming's fine. Again, I think, conservative investing strategies in crypto, it seems like an oxymoron. But that's what I'm trying to bring to this space. I'm trying to bring a realistic conservative mindset. Be conservatively aggressive, okay? Because too many channels say, what, Doge is going to $100, XRP is going to 10K, all this crap, Cardano to $200. Okay, I'm trying to be realistic within the charts, within the market cap, and go from there. And if you're waiting for $10,000 XRP, if you're waiting for $20 Doge, you're gonna be waiting a long freaking time. And meanwhile, these people who are making these videos are probably taking profits and dumping on your head, just leaving you with the bag. So, if you believe in 10K XRP, why? Show me in the charts why that is actually going to happen. No one has ever shown me a legit reason for any of these. They just say it. I try to at least line up multiple points of data like a good scientist. Good scientists, if you have a hypothesis, you gather good field evidence, good data, and you do multiple ranges of studies to see, are you coming up with similar conclusions or outcomes? That's what a good scientist does. So I try to use a good scientific sort of frame of work or reference to lead to some of these conclusions. So that is Cardano. We took a look at Link. I want to look at it again because I love Link. You know what we haven't really looked at today? I mean, why have we been ignoring Ethereum? Ethereum is a nice weekly doji right now. Weekly means undecided. I would not, I've liked this area. We've been talking about this, that Ethereum, so far it's holding up well. We talked about 3,800 to 4K being a good area of support. And yeah, I think as this move is sort of resetting, ETH Bitcoin coming down to its 382 and 50-week moving average, this is a good area of support. Let's see, let's take off this moving average. Let's look at our stochastic. Let's look at our MACD. So yeah, these definitely, they're resetting right now. That is the concern. They are resetting, but is it going to reset here? Let's go back to last cycle. I mean, look at some of these moves. Is it reset and then boom? Look at this. This move, ETH went from, this is March of 21, ETH went from 1,500 to, 4,500 in this move. Look where the MACD was. Are we in something like March? I don't know. But again, correlation does not equal causation. Don't try to compare timing scales and other fractals and other strength index moves. You got to be ready for it all. You will be waiting past 2030. Thanks for the chat. Very nice. Headed back to finish my day. Have a great rest of your day, least most wanted. Appreciate the conversing with you today. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend. But yeah, Ethereum, I think, again, 3,800 to 4K. And, we'll finish on this, which will maybe take a couple minutes. ETH Bitcoin, our phase 2 indicator, we're looking at the 50-week moving average, which is the line in the sand between being bullish or bearish, and the 382, which is the fib that you want to stay above so you're not putting in new lower lows. So those are right together. We drew this all the way back here, and it's playing out nicely. We get a nice support bounce, okay? Few waves up, boom. As soon as we get past 0.3, that's when we've had alt season, okay? 0.3, that's when we're going into alt season. Let's take a look at this. I want to make sure I'm telling you guys the most accurate information. I want to zoom in on this. So I've been saying 0.3 to 0.5 is around when alt season is. Okay. So this is important to note. Yeah, this is right around point 0.3. We were challenging point 0.3 in this fib, but this is when alt season started right here, and it was ending around January 8th. That's the 786. Okay, so golden pocket the 786 2017 cycle. That's when we had alt season. Um, yeah, alt season started around mid-April, so right past this area where we had these former highs. Okay, right past those former all-time highs. Mid-April to early May. May 10th is the date we're looking for. Yeah, so kind of similar. 0.28 to 0.42. What's at the 0.28 right now? Where's the 0.28? Funny enough, you guys know what's at the 0.28. I drew this area because that's where the 200-week moving average is. When we go to the weekly, once we are at the 200-week moving average, I feel pretty confident saying that's probably alt season go time. So if we're about to get support and then start launching up, this could be alt season go time right here, 0.28 to 0.4. So that's been alt season the last two times. Can we draw a nice little shape there? Maybe a circle or something. A big smiley face. There we go. We'll do that. Or you know what? Heck with the smiley face. Let's get something better. Let's do... This has gone off the rails. We need a rocket. Let's get a rocket. I probably zoomed right past it. Here we go. All right, sweet. Yeah. 200 moving average, 0.28 to 0.42. That's the alt season time to look for. All right, and we know we are in phase 2. We know we are in phase 2. We are right on the precipice of phase 3, which is, we've been taking a look at this, but it's a good way to total 3 ES, includes stable coins minus others, everything outside the top 10, divided by Bitcoin. We're in this massive wedge, 200 week moving average to 382. We break out of this wedge, this area, this 0.23 to 0.24, boom, away we go. Fred Drums, hope you're doing well. GLXY, good sell target. GLXY, let me familiarize myself with this one because I do not know anything about it. Galaxy Coin, GLXY. All right. This is one of those low cap Solana guys. GLXY. All right. So I'll go to one of the smaller charts that I can. All right. So yeah, this thing's just been nicely grinding up. All right. We're going to go. Well, I think right now, as it's trending up, wouldn't be a bad area to sell, frankly speaking. If you've been buying down here around 24, maybe you wait for 48, you double your money, you get out. It's a stock. All right. I'm an idiot. Let's go to stocks. Galaxy Digital. Forgive me. A lot of the talk being crypto so much, I fall into that trap. Thinking people are asking about crypto coins. All right, we had an IPO back here, 06. This thing is moving up nicely. We had these former all-time highs here in 2021, right with crypto. I want to draw a high to low here, because here from its IPO, it just died. So I'm not going to include that. What I do like is that we are flipping these moving averages on the weekly. So let's take our fib here. See what I'm doing there, high to low. Let's make sure this fib is accurate. Pretty accurate. Let's get that perfect though. There we go. All right. Daily, we are bullish. Weekly, that's looking pretty good right there too. All right. So let's take a look at some Fibonacci targets. I'm going to add in one there, 2, 3, 6. And let's look at some extensions. Here would be areas to watch for, in my opinion. So it's a $15 billion market cap. You know, I have heard of Galaxy before. My brain's coming back to me. What is this stock all about? Galaxy. Is this, I would assume, maybe like an Ethereum holding stock or something? I'm curious what you know about this one. So right now we're at 40. Okay, the 2618 there is a little over a 2x. The 1618 is there at 60, so that's another 50% move up. Yeah, I would be very curious at that 1618, but man, this is just moving nicely. This is just chopping up nicely. Mike Novogratz. I don't know the guy. Sorry to say. The the MACD's looking good. The MACD's looking very good. Ooh, we just zoomed out on the monthly. So this is giving me pause right now. I'm glad we did this. Look at the monthly. Look how the 50-month moving average was resistance. We are right at the 100-month moving average. So, and that is, yeah, that's right there. So good sell target, I would say right now, you know, if I had some Galaxy and I got in at $4-ish and I got a 10x, I would consider taking at least my return on initial investment profit. Not telling you what to do, not financial advice. But yeah, that 100-month moving average, seeing that does have me nervous, especially because the 50-month was resistance before. I'm glad we zoomed out. And shout out to the guy that brought the Mayer multiple bands to my attention. It's also at a Mayer multiple band. The higher one's at 69, right near the 1618. So yeah, if it gets above that 100-month, then I'm looking 60 to 70 in there. But yeah, all depends when you got in. And you can wait for a sell signal. You know, we have buy sell signals to look at. You know, you won't get the exact top. But again, we are right at one of the Mayer multiple bands and the 100-month moving average. I would assume those would offer some resistance. All right. But yeah, Fred, thanks for stopping by. Appreciate you. All right. Any other altcoins to look at? We talked about these. I want to go back to AVAX. You know, a lot of you guys ask about this one. AVAX, weekly sell signal. So yeah, I would expect some level of support here at the 382. If you get AVAX at 25, yeah, I think that's a good area to look at. You're welcome, Fred. Yeah, thank you for stopping by. AVAX at 25.5 would be an area I would not miss, personally. We have a guy out there that's always asking about Bonk, the Bonk father. I think it's Van the Man, right? He's always asking about this one. Man, Bonk's right at its 382. So let's start zooming in. Is that 382? Is that 382 holding up? Not the best. It is kind of keeping this trend line. You know, could it go a little lower? Sure. But yeah, now is an area Now, as an area, is it worth taking a little educated gamble? I mean, I wouldn't hate it. Um, yeah, that's, let's draw, I want to draw a fib right in here. I want to draw a fib right in the middle from this low to high. We're going to do a couple fibs here, see what lines up. So that low to high says 786, 4 zeros, 1569. This low to high is almost exactly at that 786 and a trend line. I kind of like that area. Fred, you didn't have to do that. Thank you so much. Thank you for the 5, man. I hope you have a wonderful Friday and rest of your week. And hey, if that 100-month moving average holds true, as well as the Mayer multiple band, yeah, that would be a good catch right there. So hope you got some good profits. Anyways, yeah, we have the 382, the 786 pullback for Bonk. Bonk might be, how degenerate am I feeling right now? Bonk might be worth a little bit of a play here if you want to ignore confirmation. But we're seeing this. We started out looking at Ondo earlier. This has been one I've been keeping my eye on. And I'm like, man, will we ever get this 0.5 again? We got there, and I'm like, ooh. But again, we have the RSIs and other things not confirming the bottom's in yet. We don't have any bit of confirmation. This would be purely spot buying at a fib. Which again, we're underneath our moving averages for resistance. Okay, the stochastic and all that, it still has room to go. We don't have, yeah. So maybe the candle body is just going to be put in right there around 86 cents. But if you like that fib target, yeah, I do like Ondo there at around 85 cents. And it might get lower. If Ondo gets to the 382 here at 76 cents, I'm not missing buying it. I'll probably dollar cost average in a little bit right here, just blindly, but full on expecting. Okay, let me be clear with my plan, not financial advice for any of you. Might dollar cost average in a little bit here, full on expecting it to go here. But if it gets here, I'm getting it. And if we do a low to high fib, yeah, we have the golden pocket. If it doesn't get down there, we have the golden pocket right between 81 and 83 cents from this micro low to high. So I'd consider some of that too. Any other altcoins to look at? I'm just kind of going off the ones that I know we've talked about. Ooh, don't love that. Don't love SWE doing that. Let's take this fib off log. Well, it is getting support at its 1618. But yeah, this is one, we talked about. It already had a big run. A big run in a short period of time. So consolidating in here right at the 1618. I'd want the 1618 to hold up. I really would. I'd want this to hold up right at around 325. Again, we could take a look at a fib within a fib. We can do a high to low from here. Let's put that fib on log. And let's turn that down. Oh my God. I clicked it. Let's do the same with the other one. Drives me crazy. All right. So, yeah, we did high to low, and we have a 0.5 here at around $3. Okay, good to know. And then let's do low to high. Curious how much of a pullback we've gotten. All right, I kind of like this. When we do low to high, we've hit that 0.5 before. Maybe we could put in a double bottom around 308 for SUI. SUI, Litecoin, we can ignore that. H bar, we haven't taken a look at H bar in a while. I always have to do this to find the good ones. Hedera hash graph. All right, we gotta fix this fib up a little bit. Add in our golden pocket, turn the volume down. All right, cool. Right in the golden pocket. I do like that. If it gets to the 618 at around 20 cents, we're pretty much there. And we have the 50-week moving average. Now, H-bar has gotten to the 100-week moving average before. But man, the 618 and the 50, if you like H-bar, again, I would be willing to dollar cost average in a little here. I do have some H-bar that has done very well for me. But I was getting it down here. If H-bar came back to this area, I might add a little. Yeah, that 0.5, man. Can H-bar get back to that 0.5? I don't know about that. But I would consider the 100 first. Instead of being, too patient and missing my opportunity. So that's what I'd take a look at for H-bar. All right, let's close out with what we were talking about earlier. We are waiting on phase 3 to start. And, maybe phase 3 is just about to begin. I think, whether you're taking a look at total 3 ES minus others, or, if you write it out this way, I think we're right at that area of phase 3 resistance. There's the 50-month moving average, which has been resistance before. We are right there. And so getting above this will be bullish for phase 3. And this is what we're waiting on next. Once we get phase 3, we are truly in the end game. And we have months, just months, if that, until we get our cycle top. So do keep an eye out for that. Anyways, guys, I'm going to end it there. Thank you all so much for coming by. For Fred and Least Most Wanted, appreciate the conversation. That's my goal for this crypto channel. Have conversations with you guys. Spread the knowledge and the love. Hope you all had a fantastic week and are going to have a fantastic weekend. I am Market Psychology 101. And yeah, thank you for coming by. And lastly, apologize for the technical difficulties earlier. Needed to use the updated software. Who would have thought? Have a good day.